Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, a new leaked patent reveals that Switch 2 will have Clippy support. South of the Arrow marks a hidden secret, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society marks a hidden secret with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Conner McCabe. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, and then on Thursday, Mark is back so we can cast Nintendo characters in the roles of Disney fairy tale romances in honor of Valentine's Day, of course. But Conner, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me back on just a lovely podcast. I like being here.
Hey, Conner, I like having you here.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for coming in, for doing news with me. Mark, out of town.
Hey, you're so welcome. Mark is in two states. One of two states at all times.
Okay, yes.
Either in town or out of town.
Right. And when he's in town, he's home?
Yes.
And when he's out of town?
He's gone.
Guess what? Not home.
Not home.
Not home, not available to record podcasts.
No. So, Mark's blessing of being a nomad is my gain. So I'm happy to be here. I love filling in on these news episodes. I feel like last year, or maybe the last couple years, I've gotten to do an episode early in the year, like January or February.
Yes.
But I also had a question for you.
Oh,
unrelated.
Okay. What's up?
Off the top of your head, do you know how long the theme song is after you introduce the podcast?
Oh, it's like 30 seconds.
Okay. Just curious, because as it started to play, I didn't have a judgment on the length.
Right.
But I was like, we just got a new theme song for one of our shows. And I know how long that is.
Wait, what show has a new theme song?
The Super NPC Games Club.
Oh.
Which you won't hear on the main feed. But if you listen to that Control Games Club, and now I'm just immediately...
Just right away plugging
crap.
Conner, guess what I was listening to as you were rolling up here?
Sonic Adventure?
No.
Control?
Control!
Oh!
I didn't notice the new theme song.
It's Maybe it's missing in that one. I'm going to have to go back and listen. But Tyler Schnupp made a great new ditty for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I believe that our theme music is 30 seconds long because that's what I remember asking 8-Bit Betty for.
That makes sense.
I was like,
okay.
I want like a 30-second intro, a 30-second outro, and then like a transition that's like 12-ish seconds. Mm-hmm. That's the long one. The first transition, I don't know if you know this, Conner. The first transition music, longer than the rest of them.
Wait, because I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
Well, so no, there's like the opening music,
yes.
Right? That I think is 30 seconds.
Okay.
But we will do a first transition before we talk about what we've been playing. That's the transition music, but it's like a little bit longer than there's a short transition too.
The more you know.
Things you may not
now,
realize as we're
this
good
is
peek behind the curtain. That's right. You know what? Why do we even have these curtains, Conner?
I don't know. Let's take them down. They're a formality.
They are a formality. I want to plug our Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if people go and they support us at the 8 or 16-bit levels, they get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries like NCS Arcade. We just put out episode 1 of season 3, Conner, wherein we take the arcade part of that premise seriously and play 3 classic Nintendo arcade games, Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and Donkey Kong 3. That episode is available right now for 8 and 16-bit subscribers. So check that out. It was a ton of fun and a good conversation there. If you are supporting us at any level, including the free level over on Patreon, just following us over there, you will also have access to our listener feedback episodes. You can send us an email, anything you have to say about any of those Donkey Kong games. Did you grow up playing them? Did you play them in bars? Did you play them at your friend's dad's house and he's got an arcade machine down there? Did you also watch the 2006 documentary King of Kong and have things to say about Billy Mitchell or Steve Wiebe? We want to know about it. So email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and we'll include you in those episodes, which again, everyone can listen to for free just by following us on Patreon.
I saw the episode in my feed.
Oh, you gotta check it out, man.
It's there. Well, not of course not the listener feedback episode, but the proper episode itself. Also, if I just missed the first @gmail.com, I feel like if you miss that, it's sort of like you're out in the game, and now I can't attempt it the rest of the episode when it comes up.
Well, if it comes up, I think you can make an attempt at it. But like you gotta be like running alongside the train.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: I've never, because Mark refuses to initiate the email address. So I've never been in this position that you find yourself in.
You've been Simon saying.
That's right. I've never been Simon said to.
Wow. Again, the curtains. Folks, why do we
Pulling
have
them back? The curtains are gone, obliterated entirely. Our next game for NCS Arcade. Connor, every now and then we play a Genesis game, and it's almost always a mistake. We're playing Toe Jam and Earl.
Oh my gosh. An early sort of like, not a roguelike, but a game with sort of procedurally generated levels.
Connor, you've already said more about Toe Jam and Earl than I understand. So very excited for that. But that'll be our game for the end of February. So play along with us if you want, if that sounds like fun. Also, you can use our email, Nintendo Cartridge Society @gmail.com. Nailed it. To sign up for our Discord or just get an invitation for it. Email me. I'll email you back with a link. You can click in there and hey, if you've emailed me before and you missed the window and the link expires, email me again. I don't care. It's fine. It takes me like 4 seconds to do it.
It's worth it, folks.
Right. It's a fun time in that Discord.
It very much is.
Connor's in there. We have fun. All right, Connor, are you ready to talk about what we've been playing? Well, no. Hold on. You mentioned the Games Club and that you guys are playing Control over there right now. Let's do a little like Connor plug-in. Obviously people know you from Call Me By Your Game.
Yes.
Where you delve into people's specific experiences with video games and why they're important to them at a specific moment in their lives. It's a great show. I've been on it. But you guys are doing all these cool Games Club episodes now. If you just like tell us a little bit about those.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for giving me the chance to do so after I forced in the plug already earlier on this episode. Yeah, so listeners out there, you might be familiar with my podcast, like Patrick was saying, Call Me By Your Game, but that's a part of a larger collective of video game podcasts for a little indie podcast network that we have over at Super NPC Radio. And we have, we do a games club at all times, Patrick.
You always have a games club going.
It's always going. Which is basically, it's what it sounds like. It's a book club style format where we play a game in a group and we come together every week and talk about it. And those episodes release on Patreon.
Here's the thing, though, is that I just want to say that it is like in a if you're saying that it's like a book club, usually a book club meets after everyone has finished reading the book.
Oh, sure, yes.
Right? But what happens in these games clubs is that you've got it divided. You take an entire quarter to play a game, and you're releasing episodes weekly. Right?
Weekly, yes.
That are like the game broken up into discrete little chunks. So like if you want to hear a bunch of people get really deep into the minutia of like a tile set used in Super Mario 64 or like the funny weird things that NPCs are saying in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, like this is where people are paying enough attention to a game and talking about it in such excruciating, wonderful detail.
Oh, and it's excruciating.
But wonderful as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an absolute blast. I really love. We used to do an old format where it was one game at a time.
Right.
But it's been far more sustainable for us to play one game over, 2 to 3 months rather than 6 games and covering those. So it's an absolute blast. And if anyone wants to find that, our free feed, the free version of that, where we air our legacy games clubs, is at Super NPC Games Club. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find it. The Super Mario 64 and the Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow games clubs have already aired.
You're burning through Sonic Adventure right now.
And then following that will be Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Whoa.
Which feels nuts. It feels like we just did that, but it was fall of 2023, so it's been a minute. But yeah, that's a little deeper dive into all the podcast stuff I do. I also wanted to say, while we're highlighting me for a moment,
let's highlight Connor for a moment.
Just in case you haven't put 2 and 2 together, if you're in the Discord, my username in the Discord is Cons, which is like my video game avatar nickname, CONZ. So if you ever see me in there, that's me.
That's this
Conner
guy.
McCabe. So I know that some people know that when we're chatting, but Just in case that's news, now you know.
Now you know. Also, those Games Club episodes feature previous NCS guests like Jeremy Schmidt, like Tyler Schnupp, like Mikey McCaller. I think that's all of the people that we have had on our show. But it's a good group, so check it out.
Thank you.
All right, Connor. Now let's get into what we've been playing this week. 10 seconds, that one. That one's 10 seconds.
I was going to ask.
The next transition, going to be 5 seconds.
Ooh.
Obviously, Connor, we just recorded our NCS arcade episode, so I spent a lot of time playing those Donkey Kong arcade games. I won't really belabor any of it here because we talked about it for almost 2 hours over the weekend. But those are good games. Those are fun games, especially the original Donkey Kong. There's just something magical about it, especially the arcade versions where Mario feels so responsive and good. I don't. Do you have a lot of experience with those original arcade versions of those games?
I've definitely tried all of them, but the original Donkey Kong is the one I have the most experience with, which is probably a common thing for most people. But I had kind of a breakthrough with that game finally when we were doing our Donkey Kong Games Club. And I not only played that game for its own individual episode, but in Donkey Kong 64, famously, in order to get one of 2 different coins, you have to beat a version of the arcade game. I think it's like you have to get through 2 levels.
I think you just need to do one level of it. Yeah, which is the 4 stages, right?
Yes.
Is the Cement Factory in that? Do you remember? Is it?
I think it is in that one.
Is it the NES version or the arcade version?
I believe it's arcade.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Either way, I had a breakthrough where I finally really got it and came to love it. And so now, if I'm at an arcade and it's there, I want to play it. I even have a fondness for the home console version.
Yeah, I do too. There is something more responsive about the arcade version. I can't really place my finger on it. Like Mario just feels better to control in the arcade, and I don't really know why.
Well,
and it wasn't really until this last playing for the episode that I realized that it felt so much better. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But Connor, let's talk about some games that you've been playing, because everything else that I've been playing, I've talked about on the show at some point.
Hey, happy to. Maybe I'll get into it a little bit, but I keep bringing up the Games Club. We are playing 2019's Control by Remedy Studios. I'm pretty sure you don't have experience with this game, right?
That's right.
I will say it has totally lived up to the hype of what I had heard about it before, as far as being a very Remedy is known. Their games are known for being a little, how I might call them esoteric, a little mysterious, to a little David Lynchian.
R.I.P.
Very R.I.P.
So R.I.P.
So R.I.P. Actually, more than you said.
R.I. so much P.
Yes, it's so that as far as the narrative and storytelling and so many of the elements go, and then this game in particular is a fantastic sort of action adventure, sort of Metroidvania style, just third person prestige game.
Now, this is your first time playing through it.
First
correct?
time.
Yes. But you are a big Alan Wake 2 guy.
Yes, I love that game.
How does this experience so far compare to your experience playing Alan Wake 2?
Yes, I would say that this is much more of a power fantasy third person action adventure game.
Gotcha.
Whereas closer to a God of War or Spider-Man, I might say, albeit with totally different abilities. And I would compare Alan Wake 2 to it's much more similar to Resident Evil 2 remake in so many ways.
Sure.
But they have horror elements in all of them. But Alan Wake 2 in particular, you are not a superhero with any Jedi-esque abilities,
right,
is what I'll say. Yeah, but I'm loving it. I definitely, at this point in the game, still prefer Alan Wake 2, but I haven't finished this game.
So it could change.
Yeah, I think you would probably really enjoy this.
I probably would, yeah.
I'm playing that on my PC right now and streaming most of my playthrough over at twitch.tv/consiscool69. The cons from the Discord.
That's right, same cons.
I am also on my PC playing Stardew Valley. And this is the first time I've ever touched that game. You have had a little experience with it, right?
I've had a little bit of experience.
Yes.
Obviously, Mark is a big Stardew Valley guy.
That's right.
And when it was coming out on Switch, he was very excited. So I was like, I'll hop on that train. I'll get
Yes.
excited too. And I played, like a couple weeks of the game. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I had my farming sim experience with the original Harvest Moon on Super NES 100 years ago. And now I'm just like, hey, I'm happy that there's like a better version of that for people now. But I just feel like I've had that, that box for me is checked.
Makes a ton of sense. I never really have. I've definitely tried out various farm sims. I have played some sort of what you might call life sims. I'm very familiar. I played every Animal Crossing.
Right.
I love that series. This is obviously something that is kind of in the middle of those two. It walks the line of those two genres. And I have been wanting to play it forever. It's been one of my huge rainy day items, and my plan is to be playing this all year leading up to the final
very cool
another totally different series bonus podcast episode that I'm doing in December about Stardew. And so I'm loving it. It's so addictive. It's one of those games that I really feel the pull of. Each day in it takes about 15 minutes for me to play through.
Yeah.
From wake up to go to sleep in the game. And I will say that it's so easy for me to just to give in to the impulse of just one more day.
Yeah.
You get it.
Yeah.
And I love it. Conrad is my character. He has a Leon S. Kennedy haircut, but with more of my hair color.
Okay.
I have a mustache. On my farm, I'm really focusing on I was cooking potatoes in the spring, and now I'm cooking melons and peppers in the summer. Or farming.
No, but like you can
growing.
say like cooking is kind of just like a verb that like generally means doing the thing with, right?
Thank you.
Like this language has evolved so that like cooking colloquial will mean like you can say like we're cooking up a podcast right now.
Yes, we are. You're always making me look better.
That's right.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that, and then I have a cat named little orange tabby named Frito, who is my cat. But I really like it. It's a blast. The last thing I wanted to talk about was something I put on my list, which I really only turned on last night because I got a weird bite. A bug bit me, and that bug was Solid Snake.
Yeah, you're playing a little Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
Now, I gotta know, because I saw this on the list and was like, Connor, what are you up to?
What I'm up to is that, as everything just continues to be a plug for all the podcasts I do, over at Super NPC Radio, we are doing a light celebration for the PlayStation 1's 30th anniversary.
That's right.
Throughout the year. We're doing a few bonus episodes on Patreon. We're doing a bunch of more of like low-effort, fun streams on the network. And one of the games I'm going to be probably talking about throughout the year, so I've been playing games like Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. I've been goofing off with, for the first time, what's the racing game that's popular on PlayStation?
Who cares?
Whatever it is, the popular one.
Yeah.
But last night I was
Forza?
It's not Forza.
It's not Forza. It's a different one.
I can say that. I can tell you which ones it's not,
okay,
but not
great.
what it is.
It's not Ridge Racer.
I don't think it's Ridge
not,
Racer.
We don't know what it is.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But last night, Amanda fell asleep early. I wasn't ready to go to bed. I went into the other room, turned on my PlayStation, connected to the CRT, and I put in Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, man.
One of my all-time favorites.
A great game.
A game that I also came to later in life for me. But, well, I couldn't believe how much that game humbled me, where I must have died 5 times in the, like, tutorial, like, elevator
like in
area.
that first room before the elevator?
Before you even go up the elevator.
Yeah. Like, 2 guys come out with guns.
2 guys! And I kept just kicking the bucket. And I got inside the facility and found the DARPA chief. But
okay, good. Okay.
But I was, at first, that first room, I was like, what happened to me?
Here's the thing. That game, while being brilliant, is so ahead of its time in, like, the presentation of, like, a third-person action stealth game that it is making up its own language for a lot of that stuff. So like the skills that you have like honed over a lifetime of playing third-person action games with stealth elements are not applicable to Metal Gear Solid, right?
Yep.
You got to like hold down like bumpers to like cycle between items, and like everything is just a little bit specific.
Yes.
And until you like get tuned into it, The last time that I tried to play the original Metal Gear Solid, I was like, what is going on here? And then I eventually got used to it again. But yeah, it can be a challenge.
I really had to learn how to ride a bike again.
Well, man, I wish you the best of luck and just a wonderful time playing Metal Gear Solid. You mentioned that Control is a little bit of a Metroid-like.
Yes.
And I do just want to shout out that I am still playing Metroid Dread.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hard mode.
On hard mode, which I'd complained about in a previous episode. All it really does is give the enemies more health and make them deal more damage to me. And everything else feels like basically unchanged. And so I get stuck on bosses more than I used to. Or than I did
and there's some
the last time I played it.
hard but incredible bosses in that game.
Absolutely. I just this evening crossed a little bit of a threshold where like the game is giving me stuff fast, and I forgot that like this happens like 70% of the way through the game, where it just like starts feeding you power-ups that are like totally game changing for your mobility and your like offensive abilities. Like I got the like storm rockets where you like shoot the 5 missiles, and like the space jump and something else, all within like the last 45 minutes or maybe less, maybe like half hour of play. And it's just like, oh yeah, I forget that this game is so good at ramping up the new abilities towards the end, so that like your acceleration towards like being a god at the end of the game happens in such an exciting fashion, and that's like where I finally hit right now, and I'm like, yes, and feeling so good about it.
Incredible. Are you? I'm gonna be so curious to hear once you complete this playthrough on how you're feeling about it compared to when you first played it 3.5 years ago. Because I know we were very effusive on it.
Yes.
And so, I'll be. And it sounds like you're still pretty positive.
I'm still having a blast.
Incredible.
Yeah, and like I don't know if I'm just like incapable of like having critical thoughts about it, or if I'm just like I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And it's my second time through a game. Like I can just brainlessly have fun with it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Connor. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing this week. See, that one was much shorter than the last one.
I'm catching on.
Okay, so first of all, of course, we have to Nintendo Music gets updated every week. This week we got Golden Sun for the GBA. A weird Sunday update. It like launched during the Super Bowl. Kind of no explanation as for why they released it off schedule, but like they did.
Yeah, I don't know.
I tried giving this a listen. I've never really been like the the biggest Golden Sun fan, and I got a real hang up, a real block on like the GBA sound chip. I don't think it's good.
It's certainly bad.
It's certainly bad.
Yes.
Thank you. And so I listened to like the opening title screen. I was like, this is pretty good. And then like moved on to the next thing, and I was like, no. And it's skip. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna listen to something else.
Yes.
So just a continued like Nintendo making odd choices about what they're putting on this thing.
Yeah. I despite being very critical of that sound chip, I do love that game and I do love that soundtrack. So that's one that I saw and I was like, ooh, let's make sure my app is updated to be able to hear it.
Right. So did you give it a listen?
Not a bit.
But
maybe sometime.
Maybe sometime.
I have not been using that as much as I would have thought.
It's it's tough because the app itself is like kind of bossy. And we've talked about this on the show before, but like the second you open it, it will pause everything else. So like if you're listening to a podcast and you're like, oh, maybe I want to listen to some Nintendo music, the second you pull up the app, it's like you're done listening to the podcast. You're like, no, I wanted to keep listening until I find something I want to listen to here, and it just doesn't care. It's too bossy.
Yeah.
And also anytime I like put it on like in and like put it to the sound bar or something, I will get a comment from Sarah.
That's so funny.
I will get a comment. So I just had to pick my battles on that one.
Of course.
Although the other day I did put on the end of Super Mario World, like the credits music, and Sarah and I were rocking out to it for the entire length of the track, having a great time.
Does that kind of go ba-da-ba-da-ba,
Yes, it does.
Oh, what a masterpiece.
It's such a jam, and like it goes through these like moments where like it swells and then like kind of like backs off, and it's just like it's a wonderful little piece of music. Connor, also last week, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD got a demo on the Switch. So if you want to like test that out and be like, is this any better than what I remember on Wii? It's available. So check that out. It's free.
Hey.
Did you pick up Country Returns HD?
No, but only because I 2.5 years ago played through it all on the Wii, and I have a copy of it on the Wii. And I know that there have been some adjustments to the Switch version, but I didn't feel compelled at all to get it. I do have Tropical Freeze on Switch.
Yes.
And that's one I've barely touched, but not Returns.
You should just go back to Tropical Freeze. It's a better game. I also, this, as you know, Connor, last year I was buying everything Nintendo put out. And the first game they put out this year, I didn't buy.
Wow.
So yeah, it broke a streak for me. But like you, I also have it on Wii. I have it on 3DS. I played a good portion of it a couple years ago on 3DS for your Games Club.
Yes.
So like I am also just like I don't need to revisit that moment right now. And also I got all this other Donkey Kong going on in my life right now with our Games Club.
You're Konged
out.
Our
NCS Arcade. I'm Konged out, Connor. Coming out today, Tuesday, February 11th. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 coming out on Switch and other platforms. Are you a Civ guy at all, Connor? Does that speak to you at all?
It doesn't, and a lot of simulation genres in that style have just never really clicked with me.
Yeah, yeah. I feel very much the same way. But huge release, and like it's kind of crazy that it's on Switch.
Yeah, wow.
February 14th, Valentine's Day, Friday. Of course, you can celebrate the true love of your life, Wario, with Wario Land 4 coming to Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack, the GBA. Wario Land 4, a good Wario Land game. I'm very excited about this, Connor.
Me too. The first one is the only one I've completed on the original Game Boy.
Yes.
But I can't speak any higher on that game than I already have. I love it.
Yes.
I have only really dabbled with 2 through 4.
I have also only really dabbled with 2 through 4.
Okay.
1 is like my baby, right? So
yes.
Super Mario Land 3. That's my baby. But then like second place runner-up baby for me, Virtual Boy Wario Land.
Wow.
A game that I love and have beaten multiple times.
Wow.
Although obviously not for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then 30 years. Connor, no. And I really, really love Wario Land Shake It for the Wii.
Oh yes.
Just a fantastic game, and like so much like attitude and in the animation, it rules. But yeah, so I'm definitely gonna check out 4 and like really looking forward to playing it.
Even you bringing up Shake It, I'm like, why would I buy Donkey Kong Country Returns on Switch when I could look up and look at a too expensive copy of Shake It on eBay?
I think I still have my copy of Shake It on Wii. Yeah, I can see it. It's right over there on the shelf.
Gorgeous. Looks beautiful over there.
Yes. There aren't that many Wii games over there because I gave a lot of them away. But I kept the ones that were important to me.
I love it.
And then also coming out on Valentine's Day, the digital version of the Tomb Raider 4, 5, 6 remastered trilogy coming out on Switch. Are you a original Tomb Raider guy?
Only played it watched a friend play it at his house.
Right. That's my relationship to it exactly.
And I wanted to play more of Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver than I did that game, so I never really touched it.
And I just wanted to play, Twisted Metal 2 or whatever.
What can you do?
You can let your friend play in peace.
Yes.
look up from your magazine every couple minutes to see how they're doing. All right, Connor, those are the new releases. Let's close this out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, where a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Connor and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Connor, you had a grocery experience this week that you wanted to talk about.
I did, and I'm here to talk about Erewhon Market.
So, I know Erewhon only by reputation. I've never been in one. I also like my first impression of Erewhon was like a story from a couple years ago where a couple was in there doing like dog play, like someone was on a leash and like that got around.
Yes.
But otherwise, I just know it to be a very posh, upscale grocery situation.
Yes, and until this weekend, I also only knew it on similar terms
Yes.
by reputation. And if anything, I would say that I still hold a bit of this judgment, but I was judgmental in the fact that I knew it as the overpriced but good quality store where Hailey Bieber has a $20 smoothie and you can go buy 8 ounces of guacamole for like $18.
Right.
I walk by this store to go to the pet store to pick up stuff for my cat.
Very good.
But avoid it like the plague. My dad has worked in the grocery store business his whole life. He was recently at a food show, just basically like E3 for food. Gotta tie it to video games. Earlier this year.
But don't you dare talk about Nintendo.
Not because they're not there.
It's not part of.
And it's not part of the piece.
This
the
segment,
contract.
yes.
So he texted us before they were coming down, and he was like, "Hey, have you heard of this store? It's called Erewhon. It sounds crazy. We've got to go." So my dad wanted to go. We went to Erewhon, and Patrick, I've got to say, I was absolutely won over.
Okay, so this is what I was afraid of.
Yes.
Now, Connor, I want to go.
And I want you to go.
And I want to eat. I want to eat the good, expensive foods.
Yes.
That's so. There is the Oaks Gourmet Grocery over by UCB, a place that I used to like occasionally like allow myself the indulgence of like get something like really tasty, some tasty cheeses,
yes,
or like they had this zebra popcorn with like the white and dark chocolate like drizzled on it. That was like killer. Connor, it was so good. But it's a tiny bag for like $25.
Yeah.
And like the horrible truth is that these expensive foods from like the snobby upscale grocery are so good.
Yep. Not only are they so good, it's very similar to, if anyone's been in a Whole Foods, this is like Whole Foods on steroids, where they have a hot and cold bar, they have chefs making food, but the majority of the store, which is a lot smaller inside the Santa Monica Boulevard location than I would have guessed, is gorgeous. Everything is organized so well. Everything looks really nice. It's brands I've never even heard of. Did you know there's a brand called Siete Chips?
No, why would I know that?
Well,
I've never been in Erewhon.
No, and it's great. So we got like a sampling of items to get. It's definitely not a place I'm going to be like shopping at regularly or for.
Right, it has to remain an indulgence.
It has to remain an indulgence, a specialty thing. So yeah, we got some great hot bar stuff. We had some buffalo cauliflower.
Oh yeah,
which I know you can have. We also got some great chickens.
Right.
Yes, we got some great chicken, some mac and cheese.
Yeah,
they have a wine shop we looked at. Didn't get anything, but we looked at it. They had these cookies that were called like Mexican Wedding, and they were these little wafers that kind of had a powder sugar topping to them. Incredible flavor, incredible crunch. Erewhon got me. It got me.
You know, that's nice. I want to check it out.
And I am also ashamed that it happened. Just so you know.
I'm not. There's no judgment here, Connor. The thing that I did want to just like, because you were like a Whole Foods and that like it has like a salad bar and like hot bar thing, and it just made me really reflect on the Whole Foods that is near us, and how bad that hot bar situation is. It's so disappointing.
I mean, full transparency, it's been years since I've been there and to that hot bar.
Oh, well, Connor, I guess we will never know.
We'll never know.
We were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Connor, let's get into the news. All right. We're going to spend a fair amount of time here in like Switch 2 is coming down the road. Here are glimpses of what the future might be. That's just what the news is right now.
Awesome.
A new patent filing surfaced last week that all but confirms the long-rumored mouse functionality for the Switch 2 Joycon. So this is something that's been in like the sort of like rumor ether for a while, that the Joy-Cons for the new Switch are going to be able to be used as a mouse, the pointing and clicking and all of that. And the like patent drawings definitely shows like someone using a Joy-Con with it like face down on the, no, not face down, but like side down on the table, about to manipulate it as though it is a mouse. So more or less, maybe Nintendo is patenting this without actually doing it for the Switch 2, but like that Switch 2 reveal video, like sort of hinted that there's like some sort of utility in scooching these things around on a surface. So I don't know. This one to me feels confirmed.
It sure does. And I don't recall personally hearing any rumors about this until that first reveal trailer,
Sure.
because of the behavior of the Joy-Con, how they were animated in that.
Right.
But ever since then, it just feels like the momentum is really flying down the hill on this idea.
Totally.
And
yes.
When it first came out, Jeremy and I discussed it on his podcast, Video Games, a Comedy Show, because I'm still hoping for some other little piece of info that we don't know about this thing that's going to be really intriguing or spectacular.
Right. Is this enough to be that?
And the more that time goes on, the more that I think it's possible that
Right.
it could be enough, at least for me. But I'm just excited about this idea.
Yeah, I mean the thing that excites me the most is way back when the beginning of last year when Mark and I did like our predictions for the year, which included Switch 2 predictions, even though I was pretty adamant that it wasn't going to come out last year. That one of my predictions for the Switch 2 was that there was going to be some sort of new creative suite, some like Mario Paint-esque, some sort of art studio-esque thing, and having mouse support for the Switch 2 only like solidifies the idea for me that they're going to be leaning into a sort of either like user generated content, like game maker, like a Mario Maker 3 or maybe a Mario Kart maker, who knows, and being able to use a mouse for as part of your creation tools is always going to be better than using a controller, right?
Yes.
And like, just leave it to Nintendo to, like Game Builder Garage was like a cool, robust tool that like no one I really know was messing around with. And I think part of that is that like it's just kind of tricky to use a controller to create stuff, but a mouse is immediately more accessible as a creation tool.
Yeah, possibilities there, not endless, but bountiful.
They
plentiful?
are bountiful, plentiful. There are possibilities.
There are, and I know
we're excited about them.
We are, and I know as someone who you grew up with Mario Paint, you loved it.
Yes,
I know that it'd be nice to have the Patrick Ellers of this next generation be able to experience something similar, whether that fosters creativity or inspires someone, or is just a fun thing to goof off with.
Yeah, well, and like I hope there's a way for Nintendo to really position this as something that people actually use, and are, because like there are always these like game builder tools like on the main like console platforms, right? Like Sony's got their Dreams,
yes,
and Microsoft has their thing, which I forget what it's called, but like all of that feels like it's always been like an also ran, right? Like just another like part that like isn't the main feature and like most people kind of ignore. And I wonder if Nintendo has a plan or a method to like mainstreamify this stuff, or if it will just happen. Like sometimes Nintendo does something and it becomes popular just because they've done it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't know. It would be cool to live in a more creative world.
It sure would, Patrick.
We saw a handful of other features that appear to have like leaked from these patent filings. Again, not really clear on whether these are things that are for sure going to be part of Switch 2 or what. But the ambient light sensor for the display, just like the Switch 1 has, also touch display, ditto, same as the Switch 1. A 9-axis motion sensor, which has a little bit more accuracy than the Switch has, would be the same as the Wii U gamepad, which is kind of incredible to think that thing has better motion sensing than the Switch, but there you go. Some of these I don't totally understand. 3-axis accelerometer, 3-axis gyroscope, 3-axis magnetometer.
Come on, we all know what a magnetometer is.
I assume it tells you what a magnet is.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
You need to know
And
on
it needs 3 axes
Yes.
to do that.
And then, of course, a Pro controller that can be split and used like a mouse as well.
I want to see that.
I want to see that too. And like that also implies that like it's not just something that they, not just like a gimmick to be used with a Joy-Con, but it's something that they take seriously enough that's going to be built into whatever the Pro controller is going to be.
Yes, can't wait.
We're gonna have to buy a bunch of new controllers here, Connor.
We are, and boy, we're in an exciting time. And I feel like you and I were talking about this months ago, off of any sort of microphone, but how we were in this era, we were in this moment where we know something was coming from Nintendo. We just didn't know what. Now we know what, but we don't know exactly what it's capable of and what's coming with it.
Right.
So,
right. And like how exciting it's going to feel when it hits. Here's another question we can ponder: how much is the Switch 2 going to cost, and what determines that cost? In a recent Q&A with investors, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa mentioned that the company will quote, need to consider the affordable prices that customers expect from Nintendo products. So, obviously there's a unquote. I'm done with that now.
Yes.
So just sort of interesting to consider that like they think of affordability as like a pillar of the identity of a Nintendo product. And so it's not just about like what can they get away with charging or like what does it cost to produce the thing, that they are keeping in mind that people expect a Nintendo product to be affordable.
Yes.
Whatever that means in 2025.
Yeah, it is. The phrasing does tickle me where it's like, we have the need to consider, but not the need to do.
Well, that is a great point. And also this was last week and it's well, you're still considering it? When is this thing coming out?
I think, in prepping for the episode, kind of skimming through that note, a representative saying that they're not able to reveal the price yet, and I'm sure that's just a choice to wait until they're doing the presentation. Right. But yeah, do you have it figured out? Or no? Does it help you to say whether you do or don't? I don't know.
Yeah, right, and that's the quote goes on to say, like, at this time, as you said, we cannot announce a specific price of the Switch 2, but we are considering it taking into account various price points. So yeah, it sounds as though he is saying this is not a settled issue with us yet. We are still working that out. Some of that could be translation issues, whatever, but like that's still in flux.
Yes.
We will find out probably April 2nd.
Hey, can you imagine if we are?
They still don't know.
Just barely have information on it by that point.
No way. That would be frustrating.
Yeah.
We must find out everything at that point. In that same call, Furukawa spoke to the future of software coming to the Switch 1. Quote, he says, as of now, we have announced Pokemon Legends Z/A and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond as titles for the Nintendo Switch scheduled to release in 2025. Since many people are playing the Nintendo Switch, we would like to release attractive software if we can develop it. On the other hand, dedicated software is very important with launching new hardware. With that in mind, we would like to think of various ways to allow many customers to play games through the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. So not real. I guess really the only actionable news item from this is like he's not saying we have these two games and that's it. Then we're moving on to Switch 2. He didn't mention Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is obviously still coming to Switch at some point this year. Not some point, in March. But Connor, how long do you think they're gonna put out new Switch 1 games?
Oh boy. I wonder if that will be a choice that is influenced by how many Switch 2 consoles they're able to sell.
Yeah.
And how quickly. In a way to not answer your question at all.
Very good.
I hope, in some sense, I appreciate that sort of cross-platform, cross-generation games are available on, say, the PS4 and the PS5 for people who still haven't migrated over to a new generation. But at the same time, it loses a little bit of the shine a new console does when you're like, why would I get the new console when I could just play the same thing on the previous gen. In a lot of those cases, there are graphical or power differences that make it a much better experience, but that's a long way to say I hope it's a short amount of time.
I hope it's a short amount of time,
Yes.
too. I hope they just, like, move on. Because,
Yes.
like, you know, for as much as, like, the Switch is showing its age and what have you, like, they've made so many games for that thing,
Mhm.
right? Like, its library is robust.
Mhm.
If someone is buying a Switch 1 now or did within the last, like, 2 years, they have an enormous library to pull
Yes.
from and tons of great games to play. So, like, yeah, let's move on. Let's get the next. It's been 8 years, Connor.
I can't believe that.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah,
It's
it
been
really is.
so long. But they will continue. Do you think they're going to do a lot of it's something we go back and forth on, right?
Mhm.
Do you think they're going to do a lot of like simultaneous releases on like the Switch 1 and Switch 2 where like the Switch 2 versions are just like a little bit prettier or like run a little bit better, possibly have more features, or like are they just going to put out the Switch 1 version and it'll, you know, just by default run a little bit sharper on the new hardware?
Oh boy. I guess my instinct would be that they would just release one version of it.
That's
until
sort of
they
what I
move.
think too.
Yes.
Like the times that we've seen like cross-generational
Yeah.
like the Zelda games, right? It's usually because like the form factor totally changes from one
Mhm.
generation to the next, right? That like yeah, you're going to need to have a Wii version of Twilight Princess because you need to incorporate the motion controls.
Mhm.
And like yeah, there's going to be a totally different Switch version of Breath of the Wild because you're going from a home console to a hybrid console. You just need to, right?
Mhm.
Whereas now it's like there's nothing stopping you from playing the Switch 1 version of something on Switch 2.
Yes. Dang. That's my guess, at least.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. And honestly, I feel like I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah. It would probably lead to just more confusion if there was like two SKUs of like,
Yeah,
oh,
totally.
it's Mario floor and there's a Nintendo Switch 2 version and a Nintendo Switch version, but they
Right.
both would work on the Switch 2. It feels like it'd be
Right.
confusing.
That feels
Yeah.
convoluted, and almost certainly you're gonna get like parents, aunts, and uncles buying the wrong version, right? Like
They want to
that.
avoid that headache.
You want to avoid that headache.
Yeah, and look forward to Mario Floor out in 2026.
Yeah,
folks.
what was that? What was
I was said
what were
Mario.
you reaching for? Exactly.
Well, I said Mario, and I looked at your floor.
Right, you were like
and
the Super Mario
Yeah.
chair.
This bodes well for the improv show I'm about to do in an hour.
I think you'll have a great show, Connor.
Thank you. This is the warm up.
Also from that same financial results, we learned that Super Mario Party Jamboree is the fastest selling game in the series, moving 6.17 million units between its launch date of October 17th and the end of the year. You get to spend much time with Mario Party Jamboree?
Almost none, and I'm barely more of a fan of you than the series because I know you're an enormous fan of Mario Party.
Okay, you're mischaracterizing my relationship with this game yet again.
I like a few select Mario Parties very much, and I was intrigued by this one, and I've only ever played a friend's copy. But I want to own it at some point.
Yeah, I mean it's fun enough. Like
Yes.
as Mario Party games go, I probably played this one the most now. You know, at a total of like 5 or 6 games of it.
Yes.
I've just never been that much into these games. But yeah, it maybe some of the speaks to like the year that Nintendo had, that like this was the closest thing they had to like a smash hit, other than continued sales of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like this was just the big release for them
Wow.
last year, which I don't think I would have characterized it as such
Oh no.
before it came out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. As rumors of Nintendo Switch 2 continue to swirl, we've gotten some hints about developers that plan to support the platform. Specifically, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick suggested upcoming support for Switch 2 on a recent call to investors. He said that Take-Two's, quote, long-standing relationship with Nintendo, or he mentioned their long-standing relationship with Nintendo, and that the Switch and Switch 2, quote, can support any audience. And that sort of seemed to be, he was characterizing that as like in contrast to their previous generations platforms. Take-Two, as we know, they've got a huge game coming out, we believe this year, in the form of Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6.
Mhm.
That can't possibly be what he's talking about, right? GTA 6 coming to Switch 2.
If that thing comes to Switch 2, essentially around or at launch,
Yeah.
that it totally changes the direction of what I think we're going to be considering for the Switch's future.
Yeah.
For Switch 2's
I
future.
I totally agree.
That it opens up so many more possibilities as far as third-party support from the types of games that I never go to play on the Switch.
Right. And
Even if there are good versions of them, I just don't.
Well, and you're saying good, but like you're also throwing up your hands at the
Yeah.
same time and being like,
Good enough.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, there are just if it allows for people to have like a cheaper entry point because like Grand Theft Auto sells consoles, right? Like it is a big enough phenomenon, and there hasn't been a new one in like 12 years or whatever. That like it could be the thing that people are like, I need a system to play this on. And if the Switch 2 is priced as affordable, because that's what Nintendo knows people expect their stuff to be, and it can play Grand Theft Auto 6, that maybe Nintendo might not need a killer app. Maybe Rockstar's doing it for them.
Goodness. And, I would assume if this happens.
That feels like a huge if. Right?
I still would be willing to guess that it is not going to be the same quality, both from a graphical and a power standpoint, of the game that.
Nope, it'll be just as good. It'll be just as good as it is anywhere else.
But if it is even close, yeah, I'm just is Nintendo back competing with the other big boys? I don't see that happening, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't have this game on the system.
Right.
Huh.
Well, and also like even if it is like a dumbed down version of it, and they find a way to implement like cross saves or whatever, that like people like to be able to play their games on the go, and maybe that'll be enough. Like who knows? The future is crazy, and we don't know what it's going to look like.
Yes.
April 2nd cannot come fast enough. Square Enix provided a sales update for Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake, and the results, Connor, good. The Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake has moved over 2 million copies worldwide since it launched in like November, December, whenever that was. We've already been promised a 1+2 HD-2D remake, but this level of success? We think this means we're going to get more Dragon Quest HD-2D remakes, maybe more of HD-2D in general.
I hope so. Even though I have only touched the Octopath series as far as HD-2D goes, I wanted to play it, but I missed Live Alive. I have not touched these.
Live Alive, so fun.
God, I want to someday. But this, especially if this is the first time I feel like I've heard in recent memory a game surpassing Square Enix's Square Enix.
Oops.
Expectations.
Oh.
Yeah, makes you think. So.
Right, that's a great point. Is
Yeah.
that like, especially for that sort of like middle ground that like Square Enix has been struggling with that, and even on their like big AAA games that have been like missing whatever lofty sales expectations they've had. Rebirth didn't meet their expectations. 16 didn't reach their expectations. I'm referring, of course, to Final Fantasy games. When I just used part of the name. But yeah, that like this is a game that like seemed to actually be successful for them.
Yeah,
is a fascinating like point of data.
It would be a surprise for it now have something to quote unquote surpass their expectations and then to not do more because they're already doing more when things are missing the mark.
Right. Yes.
Whatever that goal is.
Right. Moving on, Capcom Fighting Collection 2, this is the one featuring both Power Stone and Power Stone 2, among other games, now has a release date, May 16th this year. It's coming with rollback netcode and online play for all 8 games in the collection, some remix soundtracks, and some other special features. Capcom had a presentation a couple days ago that included all this information. And I guess really the only reason I bring it up here because it's kind of not a NCS newsworthy topic is that there was this collection was revealed before Marvel vs. Capcom collection came out, and fans were getting squirrely about why don't we know when this is coming out yet. And a lot of people being like, is there something wrong here? And that feels like fans being crazy. But we have the release date, so I just thought would update everyone. Basically, just me. I was interested in this. I was interested in this.
Power Stone Patrick over here.
I love Power Stone. You know I love Power Stone. Comes out May 16th. And finally, Nintendo has announced the 45th Tetris Maximus Cup for Tetris 99. The theme this time is based on Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Tournament runs this Thursday, February 13th through Monday, February 17th. As usual, score 100 points, get the theme forever. Connor, it's so interesting to me that they are launching both this and the demo for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD weeks after the game came out. Like, they're just marketing this thing in reverse.
They really are. And this is feeling a little bit of a... We've come full circle in this podcast.
Yes.
Because I will jump back in this weekend to get this theme because I love Donkey Kong. I really like Returns. I want that theme. And the theme that I always play with is the Donkey Kong arcade theme.
Do you really?
Yes. That's my favorite theme that I have. I love the music for that one, and so it's just taking us back to our original. You asking me if I have experience with those arcade games?
That's true. My God, such a perfect full circle moment. I've been playing Tetris 99 a little bit lately, just as like a good like brain reset, right? And I've left it on the Splatoon 3 side order theme. And I'm really enjoying that. And I got a Tetris Maximus. I got first place in one of them,
Patrick.
And just like sat on the sort of like victory screen at the end, and the music was all Splatoony and cool, and I was like, this is great. I love this. So what a game, Tetris 99.
Early game of the year favorite already.
Every year? That's right. All right, Connor, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Conner McCabe, thank you so much for joining me today.
Patrick, thank you for having me.
I know we plugged a lot of stuff already up front. So just, is there anything else that you'd like to plug or shout out?
I think I'll just, reiterate, if you liked hearing me talking to Patrick about video games today, check out either my podcast, Call Me By Your Game, where I talk to people about what makes playing video games special to them. And if you'd like to look at a more in-depth podcast as opposed to Call Me By Your Game, where we dive into a game chapter by chapter, check out the Super NPC Games Club wherever you get your shows. I think you're going to really like those. So if you're listening now, still check them out.
Check them out. And truly, your conversations about Sonic Adventure are giving me life. Because my experience with Sonic Adventure is like, it's fun at the beginning and like when you're doing Sonic stuff, and you guys have only started to, in the episodes that are now hitting the free feed, started to talk about like the Tails story, and then like Knuckles is next, and like the game just like falls off a cliff as far as I remember.
It really does.
I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone complain about it.
Also, lest we not forget, I'm playing back in the day your Dreamcast and your copy of Sonic Adventure, so here we are again.
Here we are, full circles all the time. This podcast, it's all about circles, baby. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Conner McCabe, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.